and gentlemen, it's time to talk spreadsheets. I've annoyed some people in recent weeks and months with my utter disdain and hatred for spreadsheets, and I may have mentioned it a few times on YouTube as well. So I think it's about time I splained myself and why I thumb my nose at spreadsheets so much. So let's begin, shall we? We're looking at a spreadsheet right now for the total cost of ownership of CF bulbs versus incandescents. Let's go back to the more colorful one from several years ago. So, what we have here is a spreadsheet, and it compares the total cost of ownership of an incandescent light bulb versus CFs and LEDs throughout various times in the last several years. Now, here's the thing. I don't hate spreadsheets because of what they are. They can be useful tools and things like that. I hate spreadsheets because of what they do. So many times I have seen spreadsheets encourage bad habits. Bad habits that waste people's time, which is also money in a business environment. Bad habits that corrupt information or data or whatever you want to call it. All kinds of bad habits. And of course, it's a convoluted mess to get anything done, and it generates the need for more folks just running reports all day, which is never a good thing. Because when you need a specialist to run reports instead of it being self-service, your technology is a failure. It's not user-friendly enough. So, computers are supposed to eliminate clerical work, not generate it. I mean, you think of, there's one time in an office, I saw an office admin spend 5 minutes on something they had to do, and then 15 minutes putting all the paperwork in the right folders in the filing cabinets. So just moving paper from point A to point B took 3 times as long as what this person had to do in the first place. Absurd. And yet, despite all these advances in technology and things like that, there are some uniquely gifted individuals, project teams, what have you, out there that want to create a computer age version of that. Absolutely absurd. So, unfortunately, I see spreadsheets, I see folders of bazillions of spreadsheets. You'll go looking for something, and then somebody will have some great idea for a project. And in order to get the information that's needed for said project, instead of just pulling it from a system somewhere, like real normalized data would do, you have to fish through a bazillion spreadsheets and copy this and paste that and don't blow away that formula and this one might be corrupted and that one might not have been filled out correctly and there's just too many chances for human error. It's terrible input design and it's awful. And there's a reason why it's awful. Spreadsheets are a digital cousin of an analog office component known as ledger paper. We have the grid lines turned off. But if we turn the grid lines back on, then we would see all the grids going back and forth and things like that. That's basically because spreadsheets are basically electronic ledger paper. If you use a spreadsheet as a piece of ledger paper, you're fine. It's when you start doing stuff that kind of steps on the toes of database files that you start getting in trouble. Things take longer to do, everything becomes a bureaucratic mess, and there's more chances for human error. So, how come we've been running this report and it just keeps not working? Well, sometimes it's the system, stupid. And if you have spreadsheets doing the job of a database, then the system is definitely wrong. So notice what we have here. So we have information on light bulbs, wattages, prices, costs, but none of this really cross-references very much. The tabs at the bottom are just for different years. Here's January 2011, May 2011, November 2013, with some more formatting, and November 2014. But that's the thing. This isn't really, I'm not cross-referencing a bazillion spreadsheets whose links might break if somebody fat fingers something when poking around on the file server. If I want an entire month's worth of stuff, it's better to type it into a database and query it than to have to fish through 50 bazillion spreadsheets. Boy, have I seen some red-faced managers mad that they had to do something like that to pull one number for one set of PowerPoint slides for one proposal. We had to fish through a year's worth of spreadsheets that were completed every single day, get a number and average it, and it's a disaster. Now, I have known some Excel fiends over the years. Who might as well just quit kidding themselves and learn Access with what they do with spreadsheets. Because once you start using a spreadsheet like a database, it's time to use an effing database. Likewise, when an Access database gets too big, or some kind of database file gets too big for its own good, like if Access has a size limit of 2 gigs, when a database gets too big for its own good, then it's time to upgrade to a formal server system for managing everything. But you don't have the first and worst, which is spreadsheets, doing the jobs of more standardized ways of storing lots of numbers like this. Here's one last spreadsheet to take a look at from the Burning Crusade era in World of Warcraft. I wanted to maximize damage without being retribution, because the retribution spec at the time was a total disaster. So in PvP and other areas, people were playing around with holy damage builds for like Shockadins and things like that. But what I did was I wanted to compare stuff on the fly, but notice what this is. It's a one-off. It's the sort of thing where, this is electronic, spreadsheets are electronic ledger paper. If you just want to put a bunch of stuff on, watch the camera strap. If you want to just put a bunch of stuff on paper just to go over the numbers, that's one thing. What happens, and actually, I might as well admit that I've done this before too, but what happens is when you go beyond just putting something on the paper, oh, that's actually Microsoft Excel. This must be the old Excel. Yeah, this is what Windows 10 makes Excel 2000 look like. Oh, yeah. Forgot I installed that just for PowerPoint or something, to look at old PowerPoint cartoons. Anyways, this thing right here is a one-off. I put all the stuff on here just to see what the numbers difference would be with various hits and crits and avenging wrath and things along those lines. See what kind of burst damage my character in World of Warcraft could have done at the time. But this isn't cross-referencing anything. I don't have spreadsheets to spreadsheets to spreadsheets going all around shared drives on a server somewhere. So if I wanted to do a ton of cross-referencing, this would go to a database. But for just plain old-fashioned jot paper, this is perfectly understandable and perfectly usable. And that's what spreadsheets are. They're electronic ledger paper. The minute you have them as something more than that, you need to move up to a database of some sort, because it's guaranteed to be inefficient. The more you go, when you've got folders and folders of 2 meg spreadsheets for every single day, you're in trouble with your data management. By the way, the worst example of a spreadsheet that does way too much that I have ever seen was a spreadsheet that actually had to have a reference guide inside the spreadsheet about where everything needed to come from. That is when you know that you crossed the line a long, long time ago. So, lesson learned, well, not lesson, I hope this is a lesson learned for some of you folks out there. The most rudimentary use for Access is as spreadsheet++. You don't necessarily need to know how to make a switchboard or anything, but if you learn tables and queries, eventually you're going to be like, what spreadsheets? Because you'll see how much more useful they can be without needing to have folders and folders of spreadsheets, and oh, you want to aggregate stuff from them, uh-oh, what are you going to do now? Spend a lot of time programming a macro? And if the macro won't work the way you want it to, yeah, this can get ugly very, very quickly. So, use spreadsheets as spreadsheets, and that's it. Electronic ledger paper. If it's anything more, move up to the next level, so to speak. MultimediaJay out.